Welcome to Keep What You Earn, a show for entrepreneurs and business owners who want to scale and build enterprise value without making costly mistakes. I'm your host, Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CFO and CPA who left a career serving Fortune 50 companies in Wall Street to help business owners just like you make life-changing wealth with your business. These episodes are meant to be super tactical and actionable, but please remember, consult your own financial professional before you implement anything you learn in this podcast. Now, if you'd be interested in working with us to do so, check out the show notes for more information about our company, Keep What You Earn Co. All right, let's start the show. One of the biggest mistakes I see is that when business owners are approached with a letter of intent, which is commonly called an LOI, or they have an opportunity to have their business purchased by somebody, they get approached. And by the way, this approach usually happens very unexpectedly. Okay. So they're approached and they go, oh no, I don't have my books in order. It's kind of like finding out the company's coming over and you haven't cleaned in a week. And you go, oh shit, I got to go clean everything. I got to go put this away. And you start shoving stuff in closets. You start throwing everything into one room. You say, don't go in that room. And it's messy. And if your potential buyer comes over and you're hiding all this stuff in the closets and they're looking at maybe even buying your house, have a visitor, have somebody coming, you're like, oh no, I better hide everything. And I better not tell them what's in the walls, or that I have a rat problem, or that I have this and that, right? They're going to find out one way or another. They're going to find out. The best thing you can do when you have the possibility of this happening, and I think a lot of people underestimate how possible this is for them. You should basically always be ready, like your house is on the market, that somebody could come into your home and that they could browse around and they could express an interest in buying your home, even if it's not for sale. But hey, everything has a price, right? Somebody might come over and say, hey, I'll give you $1 million for this place. And you're like, okay, I didn't see that coming, but okay, let's talk about it. So when those opportunities happen, I want you to be ready. And it doesn't mean that you have to be fully ready with this whole dossier and a whole folder where you're just like, yep, here you go. It just means that you have the tools you need to go build that on demand. Because what happens is when those things happen unexpectedly, this is usually when people call us. And it's a bit of a fire drill because they're like, my potential buyer needs all of this stuff, this whole package put together by like tomorrow. Can you guys pull that together for me? And, if they're a client, typically we have this ready. But if they're not a client or they're a brand new client, this is where we go, okay, so the speed at which we can produce this is the byproduct of how much care and intention you've put into this over the last 3 to 5 years. Oh, 3 to 5 years. Okay, let me talk about that. So when you are thinking of selling your business, that is usually 2 to 3 years after you have to start caring about how clean your stuff is. So the thing I want to get across, if nothing else from this episode, is that if you are listening to this episode and you're like, I'm not going to sell for a while, I'm not even thinking about this yet, this is when you should start. This is when you should start. What do they say? Summer buys are made in the winter. Great exits are made when you're not exiting, because you set the tone for 3 to 5 years. That is going to be what they see. They're going to see 3 to 5 years of what you've been up to. And they're going to judge your business based on it and assign a value to it. So the stuff you do today is driving the value when you sell. The behaviors you exhibit today are going to be baked into your valuation. So if you behave like that valuation's not a problem, it's not going to happen, and you're okay with a low valuation today, what you're doing is you're setting the pace for your valuation 3 to 5 years from now. And it's not meant to scare you, but what I'm trying to convey is how much you should care, probably more than you do now, about building an exitable business. So here's why it matters to have investor-ready books and financials. So first of all, there's no downside. I mean, the only downside is maybe how much time your CFO is taking to compile them, but if they're good and they're efficient, shouldn't be a problem. Hey, it's Shannon, and I wanted to remind you that the love language of podcasters is reviews. If you wouldn't mind taking a couple of seconds just to leave us a review if you're enjoying this show, we would really, really appreciate it. Okay, back to the show. Now, here's the number one thing. Number one, I cannot emphasize this enough after being through exits before. The number one thing that drives the deal forward or backward is the quality of the books. period, full stop. The quality of the books is everything, absolutely everything. So what we need to do is focus on building trust in due diligence and actually allowing the buyer to understand where you're at financially without you having to explain a lot, without you having to be part of the process. And it will speed up the conversation. It will speed up their trust in you. And as you go forward in the negotiations and conversation, what's going to happen is you're going to be better trusted, and they're going to basically take what you say at face value if they know that you're being truthful in the numbers. And I'm not saying that you're going to lie to anybody. I'm saying that it definitely creates less resistance in the process. So what you'll do is when you build that trust with others, it will enable a better process overall, period. But the other thing is that when you have clear set of financial statements, you're going to get a better valuation for two reasons. One is even if the financials aren't necessarily better by being better quality, and by that I mean you can have better quality financials that tell you you're in a loss position. Like you can have correct financials that paint a picture that's a little bit different. But you can always shape the narrative. You can always talk about why the future cash flows of the business are going to be brighter. You can always talk about what's going to happen in your projections, because when you have quality numbers, you can work with those to tell a better story. You can then say, hey, we've done all the analysis, and actually we're in a low point right now about to really take off. And this is a great opportunity for somebody to come in and really scale it. So that's attractive to a buyer as well. Now, what do you actually need to have ready in order to have this conversation? You should have 3 to 5 years of income statements and balance sheets minimum. You should also have cash flow statements if you are able to pull those. Now, if you're using a program like a QuickBooks, all of these can be produced for you through the click of a button. But here's one little caveat I would say. If somebody's asking you for a set of financial statements as a part of an LOI or anything like that, here is specifically what I would do. Be very careful about what you share. Number one, make sure you have an NDA or some type of protection that you're able to share those safely, especially if this is a competitor. Number two is to make sure that, here's the thing, this is the thing people most miss, and this is why I would highly recommend you engage somebody like a fractional CFO or your CPA or somebody who's an advisor to you to get involved here. Because what I do when a client needs to produce this, what we do is we do a set of the financials, but what we do is additional disclosures where we'll put in, hey, here's the P&L for ABC company, but really quick, I'm adding back their accountable plan reimbursements. I'm adding back some of their officer salary. I'm adding back, some tax advantage stuff. Maybe they put their cell phone bill through the business. They put a few things through the business that are actually their personal expenses. Like, I'm not knocking you for it, but if you're doing that, we got to add those back in and say, that is cash flow, that is expenses that the new owner would not absorb. So what are the expenses that the new owner would not be absorbing? Because what you want to do is understand that the financials you're giving, are you painting the picture for what they are buying? So this is what we're looking at. We make this much money, we make this much profit, we spend this much in expenses. If when they inherit the company, when they take it on, they will not have certain expenses or even certain revenue, by the way, but if they will not experience those things, that should probably be disclosed, or especially the expense side, because you want to be increasing the profit. The way you're painting the picture is to show, hey, these are things that you would not probably be paying for. Like, one of these things is hiring my kids or whatever. Like, you're not going to hire my kids. Like, once I sell this business, you don't get them. So there's a few pieces in there that you might want to carve out, and we're really good at disclosing that and making sure that's super clear so that you're also getting a better picture, a clearer picture, and possibly a better valuation for your company that's more accurate. Because if you're just looking at your P&L, remember that most people build QuickBooks. Most people build their books to show the IRS. And when it comes to reporting to the IRS, you want to show them that you're poor. When it comes to reporting to an investor, you want to show them that you're rich. You should not use the same set of financial statements for both of those people. And for anyone who just heard that and says, wait, she's saying to keep two sets of books? No, no. However, when you put stuff through your books, there's going to be certain things that on a tax return you're able to claim, but necessarily in an investor situation, it's not really a cash flow reduction. I'll give you an example. For example, this is why investors look at EBITDA earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Because depreciation reduces your profit on the tax return, but it doesn't reduce your profit on the books because it's not actual money being spent. It's just the representation of a declined value of your assets. So basically chipping away the value of your assets over time in theory and in concept, but not in cash. Like you're not actually paying for your equipment, every year. You might be paying loans back, but you're not actually like paying over time. So what we're trying to do with the financial statements is paint that clear picture of this is what they're going to be absorbing. So when you're doing that, you have to really understand what we call normalized EBITDA is, which is what is normal for your company. Take out those one-time costs. Let's say you had a lawsuit this year, it cost you 60 grand and you're like, that's not normal. Like this isn't, if you look at this profit for this year and you said this was going to be the profit the next 5 years, that's not true because we had a 60K lawsuit this year. That's not going to happen again. So we kind of look at what would the profit have been if we didn't have certain isolated events. That's a really key part of it. So this is where we come in, where we can help you create that normalized EBITDA to make sure you're painting the right picture and you're not selling yourself short, literally. Another issue is commingled personal expenses. So if you have a lot of personal expenses in there and you're keeping that in, it can paint a really weird picture of what the actual numbers are telling you. And if you're not using accrual accounting, most people are using cash accounting, but if you're not using accrual accounting, you're going to have to convert to that in order to present your financials when it comes to an acquisition. So a key piece here is having a CPA or a CFO or somebody who's well skilled in this actually convert your books to accrual and be able to present them and tell the right story. So your potential investor needs to be able to see your revenue by segment, SKU, product, revenues, income centers, by location, all those things. Your gross margin, also by those different segments, and then customer concentration. Your top 10 customers. If your top 10 customers are 90% of your sales, or however that is distributed. And you're going to want to see if there's any receivables that are out there. So this is really key. In order to get ready for this, what you're going to want to do is potentially upgrade your technology. Definitely explore a fractional CFO or an in-house controller with the right skill set. This is where we shine, is getting this ready. And this is what we try to focus on here at Keep What You Earn, is trying to help you get ready for exit, whether or not you're on the verge of the exit or you're simply exploring the option. Just having you be ready and know what that entails is everything. And then, of course, you're going to want to have an idea of your forecast and budget so you know when is an optimal time for you to exit, when would you need to do this to meet your goals, and really how far are you from hitting those goals that you need in order to feel like you're ready for that exit. So when it comes to preparing those financials, these are the things I would keep in mind. This is the advice I would give you. And I would definitely consider getting some help if you're even close to starting this process. So when it comes to tax strategy, my philosophy is that I would rather you master your tax plan than implement some crazy strategies you're learning off of TikTok and Instagram. And that's why we use power sessions to dedicate some time with you to create a pro forma tax return. This enables you to predict your tax outcome, to take the surprise out of that surprise tax bill, and to enable you to use your resources better instead of overpaying Uncle Sam. If you're interested in learning more, check the link in the show notes to learn more about our power sessions.